Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's introduction to security orchestration, automation, and response and the Siemplify security operations platform. I'm really excited for the content that we have prepared today, but before we begin, I want to let everyone know that today's session will be recorded and shared out via email where you can rewatch at your convenience. And furthermore, we will host a Q&A at the end of this presentation, so feel free to use the Zoom control panel at the bottom of your screen to ask those questions at any point in time, and we'll help address them at the end. My name is Christopher Mitchell, and I am the Demand Generation Manager here at Siemplify, and today I am joined by Ray Turner, one of our solutions engineers. Now, before Ray dives into the platform, I wanted to just quickly set the stage for what you'll be seeing shortly with just a few slides. So some quick background on Siemplify before we jump in. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, as a company, we are rooted in security operations, or as we like to say, we were born in the SOC. Our company was founded by security operations experts who worked in a government SOC and then moved on to train dozens and dozens of both military and civilian SOCs from around the world. From there, they founded Siemplify and developed our platform based on their experiences and everything that a security operations teams need to succeed. We are the leading independent security operations platform, and we're trusted by the biggest and best enterprises and MSSPs from around the world. Many Fortune 500 companies and Gartner Magic Quadrant MSSPs trust us as the platform to run their security operations day in and day out. And this is clearly reflected in our Gartner Peer Insights reviews, where we're the #1 rated SOAR platform. And finally, we were designed with the customer in mind, providing rapid time to value, flexibility, and the power to help your SOC move beyond the daily cyber grind and concentrate on what matters most, building resiliency and investigating and remediating real threats fast. Now, jumping into some of the security operations challenges that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Every SOC has a varying maturity level and experiences their own unique challenges, but these are some that we find all security operations professionals face and that SOAR helps solve. First challenge is the fact that there is no central platform to manage all of your security operations from. If you look at other operations in a company like sales or HR, there's typically one platform like Salesforce or Workday respectively, where people log in to get all of their work done. But with security analysts constantly swiveling between products and applications, this impacts their productivity and even visibility. The second challenge is that all the tools security operations teams use and keep adding at a growing pace were not designed to work with one another, and so there's no connective fabric to orchestrate all of the products that you use. And this then leads to the most common security operations challenge, which is alert overload. The average organization now uses anywhere from 26 to 47 different security solutions that often generate their own alerts. Plus, with the ever-growing number of threats, analysts are constantly trying to remain afloat in a sea of alerts. The next challenge is manual and inconsistent response processes. Security operations professionals are often, and their processes are often poorly documented or even non-existent. And when those processes do exist, they're typically very manual, which means that an analyst spend a lot of their precious time on repetitive and mundane activities. And this is a particularly serious issue because of the final challenge, and that being the global talent shortage. We all know that cybersecurity professionals are very hard to find, which means that as organizations should strive to focus their time on high value work and make sure that the talent we do have is as productive and satisfied as possible. Now, getting into the SOAR basics, every SOAR solution out there will ingest alerts from your existing security solutions. They'll provide automation and playbooks to help you investigate and respond to those alerts. And that's sort of the bare bones. But here at Siemplify, and as you'll see in additional slides, we really take it that next step further. So not only do we ingest alerts from all of your different existing security solutions, whether it's SIEM, EDR, AV, firewall, what have you, we then have our own patented threat-centric technology that correlates related alerts into a single case management system, where you now have the context, the visibility into the who, what, when, where of this threat. So you can run more intelligent playbooks, whether it's, just starting with alert enrichment, calling out to Active Directory, threat intel. And let's say that threat intel identifies the threat as known malware. We can blacklist the hash value, quarantine the device it was found on, etc., throughout the entire remediation process. And then the added bonus of having all of this from within a single platform is you can now use this feeder to really track and analyze your security operations center. And that includes anything from threat trends against your organization to analyst performance to SLAs like mean time to detection and mean time to response. So what sets us apart at Siemplify? There are a lot of SOAR options out there, but where we excel, we at Siemplify focus on applying context with our threat-centric approach, as I mentioned. By moving to a context-driven, threat-centric model, you can focus on what's important instead of drowning in analysis and alerts. Our patented technology automatically groups related alerts into that single threat-centric case, reducing load, improving efficiency, and allowing for a single analyst to work a single case and single threat, shrinking the overall noise within the SOC dramatically. Our cloud-native security operations platform sets you up with the building blocks you need to think beyond the traditional SOC, with playbooks, case management, investigation, dashboards, threat intel, collaboration, crisis management, and more, all on a platform that's designed for productivity and simplicity. We unify disparate security tools for full visibility and context, automating the tedious tasks to free up your team to focus on more strategic initiatives and speeds up response from hours to minutes. Furthermore, because of recent digital transformation and acceleration over the past 2 years, it's driving the need for a decentralized enterprise and a model where you can operate at scale no matter where your security team is located at any time and in any capacity, while automating workflows and accelerating processes, all while freeing up your team to work on more strategic initiatives. And lastly, we provide insights into your security operations from dashboards and reports to the case wall. We've intentionally built in the ability to consolidate and easily see the scope of activities, generate insights that drive improvement, and measure that improvement over time, enabling you to be agile, efficient, and anticipate future needs. So honestly, what does all of this actually mean for you? What are the actual performance outcomes for you in the SOC? By doing so, we're able to automate 98% of tier 1 tasks, again, eliminating the mundane and allowing your team to focus on high-level activities and actual threats and not just individual alerts. This ultimately reduces caseload by up to 80% with our threat-centric cases and patented technology. And it ultimately can drive down the time to identify and link alerts from hours to minutes and seconds. For one of our customers, actually, the specific metric was decreasing that investigation time from 7 hours to 5 seconds with the automated correlation and playbooks. So ultimately, we're helping you reduce alert overload, receive that context, perform high quality investigations, and focus your efforts on driving team performance and securing your organization while strengthening your security posture. So in summary, we are SOC experts trusted by the best, delivering a powerfully simple threat-centric platform with a rich vendor-agnostic partner ecosystem who is committed to your success. So with that, I will hand things over to Ray to walk us through the Siemplify security operations, orchestration, and response platform.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Let me go ahead and share up my screen here. All right, and off we go. Thanks, Chris, for the great introduction and overview. Covered a lot of things that allows me to focus just kind of on the platform. So we'll start here. Again, we want to, this discussion today is around, SOC operations and how Siemplify can be that kind of workbench to help you be more efficient. So just at a high level, again, we're bringing in alerts or high value items from your either something like your SIM or your point security solutions, and it could even be an existing ITSM system. Maybe you have ServiceNow or something like that, and you get a lot of requests that come through there. The idea is we'll bring those into the Siemplify platform, we'll create a case, and then we'll help you automate and orchestrate against that. One of the things that I want to focus on while we're looking here is I'll just grab one of these cases in this instance. It's a C2. We'll minimize the view here. We'll just kind of focus on the case. So as a security operations practitioner, one of the things that's always a challenge is, let's just say I get an alert from my SIM that says, hey, we found some behavioral activity in your environment where a user logged in out of working hours. What would I do as a security practitioner if I got that kind of alert? I'd probably want to go find out a little bit more about the user. Maybe I'd want to check with the user to see if they've actually were the ones that logged in, make sure that this isn't like a compromised account scenario. So, we would go out and with Siemplify, we can go out and automatically enrich that information instead of having you as a practitioner go do that. So go ask Azure AD give me more information about the user. In this case, maybe we have a software like Twilio that can go out and text the user and say, hey, did you log in at this abnormal time? And then we can wait for a response, and then we can present that data here for you as a practitioner to take action on. One of the things that's a little more interesting, though, that we're doing is that kind of alert grouping. So what we don't want you as a security practitioner have to do is chase individual cases, that might be related to each other independently. So our alert grouping in this case is actually added 2 more alerts into this case automatically, one being an IRC connection and the other being a virus found on an endpoint or a potential malware. And the easiest way to see how in Siemplify we decided to group these things is to really go and explore this case visually. And here is kind of, again, where we give you a bit of better context as to, what you're investigating. And all this stuff happened automatically via playbooks and also our alert grouping technology. So what happened was we saw that alert where this user logged in at an odd hour. So this user, David, logged into this workstation at an odd time. And then shortly after, we saw that workstation communicate out onto an IRC channel, which was captured by your network security product. And then lastly, the EDR product said, hey, by the way, that host has a suspicious file on it. And we can see we enriched that hash by checking things like VirusTotal or X-Force to know that this actual file hash was bad. And the thing that connected these things all together was this single host. And we automatically know that because we go back to the case, when we are bringing in those alerts, we are extracting out those valuable fields that we use for your investigation. And then at the end of the day, we see that, there's all these different values that came out of these alerts, but the one thing that was in common with all of them, the reason why we grouped them was that host or IP. And then all that enrichment that we automatically did for you is now here presented to you. So you don't have to actually go out and do that work, and you can be more effective at your job. And instead of getting data to make decisions, we're presenting you with potential decisions you can make right here in the case. Do you want to contain that endpoint? Do you want to add that IP, that IRC that they're communicating out to a block list? Do you want to just close the case? Those are things that we're trying to help you be more efficient with. And then maybe you can even have things like, I can escalate this to other tiers, or I can have communication with my colleagues directly within this case to talk about what's going on and who's doing what. Have you seen this before? And so on and so forth. So that's a little bit of visualization around how we are automatically grouping these. And we can definitely, have follow-on discussions after the webinar here if you want to dive deeper about how exactly that works. But suffice to say, we put this all together automatically for you. You're not chasing 3 individual alerts with 3 different practitioners in your organization, working each of them, and then later on figuring out that they're all related to each other and had to be merged anyways. How do we make this all happen? Quick answer is via our marketplace. So you have security tools in your environment. I think Chris was saying that, it could range anywhere from 26 to 47 on average. You would come into our marketplace, not to be confused with somewhere where you pay for something, but somewhere where you come and get the things you need to be successful. These are included in the cost of the platform. There's well over 300 integrations in our platform today, and it's constantly growing. So, again, depending on maybe you running Splunk as a SIM, or maybe you're a CrowdStrike EDR customer, and things like that. What you would do is come into the Siemplify marketplace, install those integrations and configure them up. Connect to those integrations so you can start to bring in alerts and leverage them in your playbooks. Now, we don't assume that you know everything about building out playbooks today. So in our marketplace, we also have a use case section where you can come in here and say, all right, help me get started with a phishing use case or playbook, or even something around an executable detected. And when you install these use cases, what you get here is a list of playbooks out of the box that you can start to leverage in building out your own workflow. Again, we don't expect that we know everything about how you do your work today, but if we could get you kickstarted and give you a sample of what other people might be doing for an executable detected playbook, then that gets you down the path and you don't have to build everything from scratch. Pivot over to the playbooks that we might be building out. We want to make this easy as drag and drop. So if I'm building out this playbook around this IRC connection, and I think my user is compromised, maybe I want to do something as simple as disable the account in AD. It's as literally as simple as dragging and dropping that into my playbook builder. And after a little bit of spinning wheels because of my Docker here, you can see now I have that action in my playbook, and I can start to do other things like make decisions or conditions, or even present the analyst with multiple choice questions. Do you want to, whatever, you can say yes or no, and what would they answer? And then you go back, and when this playbook runs, the analyst would actually be prompted with, do you want to do X, Y, Z? And if they answer yes, then you could build out some kind of workflow specifically to the answer. And if they said no, then a separate workflow. A couple other things that are important here. We do understand that sometimes there are things that you will use repetitively. Things like, tell me about MITRE. How can I don't want to have to build out this go in and look up my MITRE framework references and tactics every single time I build out a new playbook. So in our playbook builder, we have this concept around blocks. So kind of repetitive things that I'll use every time. I build a block one time, and then I can drop it into different playbooks. So again, we want to help you be efficient in building out those workflows in your SOC process. So let's talk about this front to back again. We're bringing in alerts into the platform. We're grouping like alerts into cases. We're going out and we're enriching those alerts with information. And that may vary from different alert to alert. So you saw with the out of working hours, our playbook could go and get more information about a user. For IRC, we might go and actually, check out the reputation for that IP. For something like a malware file, we might ask something like CrowdStrike, tell me more about the host. What OS is it running? Maybe you can go in and query my SIM and tell me if we've seen anything else from that. And then we can start to aggregate that data here. We can be prompted to take actions. And that all comes from going to the marketplace, installing integrations, building out the playbooks that would run behind the scenes, and then triaging the data that we present to you in the case, rather than going out and collecting the data, then triage and make a decision on what you want to do. I'm going to take A couple more minutes, just talk about one more thing in here, and then I think we have a little bit of time at the end for questions. All this work that we're doing here is very valuable, but we also want to make sure that we're showing our value to our management and the organization and how well we're doing. So the things that we do in this case management is very important as well. Things like we can move these cases through different stages, like it starts in triage, and then we can via playbook or manually move this to an investigation stage. And then maybe when we're at the point where we're ready to take some action, we can move it to a remediation stage where we can add tags to these cases. And those all become very helpful when we start to build out KPIs to show how well we're doing. So for example, how quickly are we as a mean time to triaging this case? 14 seconds, right? How much caseload reduction did we get from that alert grouping? So I brought in 32 alerts into the platform today, and that only resulted in 20 cases, which means, I have 24% less cases because I've done that alert grouping for you, or who's working on what, what's the distribution of my alerts across the platform. I can, share these dashboards with people. I can create my own widgets in here, leveraging things like tags, like again, show me some information about my the number of false positive cases that we've closed, right? How am I helping the organization deal with noise as opposed to, wasting time and those kind of things. So again, case management is the cornerstone of the workbench. We go back and we build out these playbooks based on integrations in the marketplace, and we give you some great KPIs and reporting around what you're doing in the platform. And lastly, I always like to come back and touch on this one last thing about orchestration is really being a key component of being a workbench for your team. It's great that I can build playbooks to present you these options, like, do you want to contain this endpoint or do you want to block this IP? But sometimes you still want eyes on, and you may be looking at the results of this case, maybe some of the enrichment that we brought back for any one of these alerts, and maybe I want to kind of manually take action. I can do that as well. I don't have to automate everything. And the key point here is that your team is then not having to pivot out into some other tool to actually take action. So again, maybe it's as simple as block something in your Cisco Firepower house, your Cisco house, and you want to block this URL. I just simply say, I want to block this URL. I'll come in and I'll select the URL that I want to block, which is this irc.org. And then I want to, maybe I tell what group in my policy that I want to use, and then I can execute this from here. Everything that I do, even if it's manually done, ends up in my case wall as a chain of custody of exactly what was done, either by the playbook, either manually by myself, or by communication with my team members in the organization. So I know that was a whirlwind of information. Hopefully it was a good overview and kind of give you ideas around how we can help. I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the time where we kind of leave this open to questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ray. Really appreciate you running through the platform. So just a reminder, everyone, you can use the control panel at the bottom of your screen to ask those questions. Jumping into some that have already come in, is our platform multi-tenant?
Absolutely. So I will show you here at the top of this, and I'm going to expand out my case list right now. You see here, I have this Vandelay Industries. We have this idea of multi-tenancy built from the ground up. This case was specifically for this tenant, whereas this case is for Wayne Enterprises, and this one is for Berlin BU. It doesn't have to be, like an MSSP kind of scenario. We see multi-tenancy used quite often in scenarios with different business units, as well as different parts of the security team. Incident response, for instance, or insider threat, for instance, can investigate anybody in an organization. Sometimes they have their own tenant so that everybody else cannot see what they're working on. So absolutely is the answer to that question.
Thanks, Ray. Another question here. Can I use Siemplify or SOAR if I do not have a SIM?
Yes, you can, although we are not a SIM. So just so we're clarifying here, we would look to bring in important events into the Siemplify platform. So if you had like a firewall, we're not going to bring in all your accept and denies. Maybe if your firewall has some advanced security features, it says, it's calling out specific suspicious type of activity. Those are the kind of alerts we would want to bring in, but we do not rely solely on SIEM as a source of information for Siemplify.
Thanks, Ray. We've had one more question come in so far. How long does it take roughly to get up and running with Siemplify?
Yeah, so we support both a SaaS and an on-prem scenario. We see more and more of our customers going with the SaaS option. The SaaS instance can be spun up pretty quickly. As far as I think the longest pole in the tent for us is just getting the credentials we need to connect with your tools. On average, when I'm seeing deployments going on for customers that have come on board with Siemplify, we usually see them in a production state within 2 to 3 months, and that's meaning that they're fully operational with their primary use cases working and functioning for them. Now, I've seen customers go faster, especially depending on what they want to work on. If they have less use cases to start out with and stuff like that. But the longest pole in the tent is usually collaborating with all the people that manage the tools that you want to connect with.
All right, one more question. Do you see it too?
Yeah, I think it's around CloudWatch. I'm pretty sure. And again, when you get to a certain number of integrations, then I start to forget all of them. But yes, here we have an integration with CloudWatch today.
Awesome. It looks like that is all the questions that have come through so far. Before we go, I do quickly want to mention that we have a free community edition of our platform. So if you go to siemplify.co/community, you can actually download a free edition of our platform. It's free forever. And from there, you still have access to pretty much everything Ray showed, including our marketplace, as Ray mentioned, where you can go from zero to hero with the ready to deploy use cases and integrations. You can build real playbooks, integrate your real security solutions, and respond to your actual security alerts. So it's almost entirely fully functioning. And from there, you actually also gain access by downloading our community edition of the platform to our Siemplify community on Slack, where you can discuss SOAR and a bunch of other security operations topics with a bunch of your peers and other security operations experts. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, this will be emailed out to you all later today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoons.